Yep, so I'm delighted now to be joined in studio by Graham Hunter. Graham, what a pleasure it is to actually have you.
Yeah, not even my parents
in Marconi House.
Say that.
Delighted to have you join us. This is the first for you in here. Then it's in the new studio.
In the Hollywood part of it, it is. I've been in the sort of low rent parts of it before, but this is top quality. This is West Los Angeles. The lads having the talent to build this on the weekends. Fair play to them.
We need a bit of memorabilia, I think. We need something that you can actually add to the room, I think.
Coffee machine, probably a bar. I don't know if there's a bar. I haven't been offered anything. JP is pointing to some indeterminate point where if I can't feel and hot coffee in a mug and smell it, and if nobody's offered me a dry martini, then I don't give a hoot. That there is one, JP.
I think it's actually worth mentioning as well. You've actually interviewed me today for the big interview, and you brought me over a beautiful bottle of red wine. So that's a lovely gift. I've got to thank you on air for that.
My respect for your wisdom has gone up because you didn't open it during the interview, which only one of our guests, Robbie Di Matteo, did. He absolutely insisted in West London, having driven in, no, we'll have a glass while we... And he did just oil the wheels a little bit.
How do you find doing that? How have you... Because you've interviewed now so many brilliant footballers, brilliant people, brilliant football characters. How have you found...
It's literally... you're cheating because you know the answer to your question, because I showed as much boyish puppy dog enthusiasm for the pre, during and post with you as I have with anybody. And I know I often excuse myself before I begin. In fact, I always say, even if the person knows me, I apologise that I'm going to sound like a stupid character called Julian from an Enid Blyton novel. Everything in moments like this for me, it brims me with enthusiasm, and it does spill over, and if you're not ready for it, it can sound a little bit soppy. But you, or this, or those interviews, they're the reason that I jacked my job in and decided that this strange ability to write or to communicate about sport or about people that I've been given, I should use full time, because it's literally a divine. JP came in at the end and said, "How's everything?" I said it was a sort of it's that moment, post-sex where you have a little, allegedly have a cigarette or whatever. It's a little orgasmic feeling at the end of an hour and a half.
That's never been said to me before, I have to say that. That has never been said to me, no.
Well, it was tantric because it went on for an hour and a half, so you're not a 5-minute man. I can tell anybody who's interested. Now, I'm covering up a serious point with my normal tosh. It's think about the people who tune into podcasts. Think of the people who tune into Off the Ball or watch in the morning live. They do that because they want to hear not just you talking about an offside decision at Burnley. They want to have the anecdotes. They want to vicariously live the life that you've been gifted, or Robbie Di Matteo's been gifted, or Michael Carrick's been gifted, or whoever we've sat down and spoken to. And it happens to be that I find the process of doing that just a joy, elevating. I research, I never get intimidated, whoever it is now, as long as I don't have to phone them. I hate phoning footballers. I always feel that's a real imposition, whereas they could probably say, no, that hour and a half you've just stolen off me that I won't get back. That's the actual imposition. But I come off it just feeling like you put me in Corpus Christi football pitches, and you put me in the Amsterdam arena, and that's a gigantic privilege. And if I'm the conduit so that people all around the world can walk their dogs 6 times around the park at night instead of just the once, via you or Guys Camindieta or Ramon Calderon, or wherever it may be. Has
anyone surprised you? Or could you think of one?
No, man.
One standout one who...
Well, maybe I'll cheat by saying that Harry Redknapp was exactly what Harry should be. We went to his house. He just moved house to get away from the people hurling abuse into his back garden from the ferry that passes by at the bottom, and he'd moved 7 doors up the road, and therefore it was all kind of echoey and empty. With the only things that were in the house were is Mrs. having a Pilates class. Is it Pilates or
Pilates? Yeah,
Pilates I call it.
Are you into Pilates?
With a logo, does it look like it? I can't even pronounce it. They were upstairs there in this beautiful townhouse thing, and there was her and her chums up there, Harry, his dog, Barney, and this 72-foot television.
At the races on.
It felt like the horse. If you turn to face it, it felt like oncoming horses. I ducked twice because you can hear the horses' hooves, not just see them. It's petrifying. And he did the whole interview, brilliant interview, looking over my shoulder until he saw a winner or whatever. So Harry didn't necessarily surprise me, but Suey surprised me. Because Suey, if you grow up as a Scot, you're not just aware that you're watching world-class footballers win European Cups. You know that you're dealing with a hard man. And then if you're an Aberdeen fan, you see Suey coming up and managing Rangers, and he stamps his way across Scottish football, belligerent, angry. Now, I already know from contact over my journalistic career that he's a really nice, articulate, friendly man. But when the point he wants to make about his upbringing is that his mum knitted him nice sweaters and he felt the cutest boy in the playground at school, that's a shock.
Yeah.
That's a big surprise. Two others I'll throw at you would be like, I have this obsession with penalties. Sorry to mention them. But I really do love the art.
You never asked me about that in mine, luckily enough.
Because I'm a nice guy.
Yeah.
Saipan. Guys Comendieta, who again featured in that sort of recurring nightmare of yours, was a metronome. I don't think he ever missed a penalty. He was a Dennis Irwin of Spain. It was extraordinary. So I asked him about his technique once he started boasting to me about pop stars he'd been out to dinner with. And as he began to analyse the art retrospectively, he got retrospectively nervous. And he finished by saying, I actually don't know how I scored these anymore, because talking about them has put me in a scary place. It's more nerve-wracking talking about them back than it ever was taking them. And the other one on penalties was Michael Carrick. I'd spent time with Michael before, but not in this big interview format where I was allowed to do what I wanted. And I asked you to take me, I use that phrase a lot, take me back to, because I don't want an off-pat description. A lot of footballers can go into automatic mode, and I don't want that. And I asked him to go back to Moscow in the rain in the Champions League final against Chelsea. And there's a point, I've never trained in hypnotism, but there was a point where I understood what hypnotists do on the stage, because Michael was there. He was in Moscow that day. He was lost. He was talking from some deep state of consciousness, and it was no longer a conversation. He was almost talking out loud to himself about the moment when he took his what it felt like, but then the watching of Cristiano missing, the watching of John Terry, looking at Van der Sar, and the instant that Van der Sar, I think, saves. Have I got it right that it's an Elkas penalty? People can pull me up for that later, but
yeah, I think you're right. I think that is right, yeah.
How his hair is plastered, seeing Alex Ferguson running down the stairs with his tracksuit open, the hair plastered to his face. Where was his family? Where was his... Those moments, there was a point at which that he was in a deep state. That's not quite the surprise that you asked for, but when Robbie Di Matteo had a little tear, Ruud Gullit famously said about him, you do well to get a smile out of him. Not only was he engaging and funny, but he just emotionally lost it a little bit when he talked about the aftermath of winning the Champions League in Munich in such bizarre circumstances, and his boy pops up to see his dad in the flash zone as part of the interview. And as a dad, as a dad, you can understand. It gives me a lot of joy, and everything that you talked about, particularly the golf balls, listening for the golf balls. That's funny. Tractor Joe, if you're watching or listening, listen, he's a good man.
Right, I think we probably need to maybe have a little chat around the week. And I think I'd said to you earlier on, I watched the Real Madrid game at the weekend, Real Madrid Deportivo at the weekend as well. Someone who you've constantly spoken about in the last month or two, Gareth Bale. This issue that seems to be there, and Cristiano Ronaldo, he got a couple of goals himself, but Bale looks to me like he's back. He's back now to the Gareth Bale that we saw maybe 18 months ago when we were seeing a player that's at the top of his game, fully confident, prepared to take his strikes on. And you mentioned as well a couple of months ago, we mentioned the form of Real Madrid, you mentioned Zinedine Zidane and all these sort of issues that goes around the team at the moment, but the one thing you said, judge Real Madrid in a couple of months' time when it is around the Champions League next round. And now, all of a sudden, now this game's imminent, it's looming, the PSG game they've got. Are we now starting to see, have they turned the corner firstly, and are we going to see now the Real Madrid that we've seen over the last few seasons against PSG?
Well, let me get my soapbox first about Gareth Bale, because it really bugs the shit out of me, and I think it's a constructive point to make that, number one, in Spain, there was a point at which his name was mud. Not because, through no fault of his own, he's persistently injured. That's the club's responsibility.
Yeah.
How do they fitness train? Do they ask him to do things in training which translate directly to what he's asked to do in the game? If not, in the old game or in the modern game, you have a problem, and that's part of the problem. Definitely, there needs to be a greater fit between what how Gareth Bale is trained and conditioned at Valdebebas and what he's asked to do in the pitch. The second thing that it really drives me insane is because he refused to go to Manchester United last summer past, and because Florentino Perez, who's the president but views himself, and de facto he is, the football director, irrespective of knowing anything about football, which he doesn't, apart from buy big. Buy big. All right, that will bring you success every now and again.
Who's advising him then? Where's he getting advice from? Or is he getting advice?
The only way that can be properly answered is Zidane. Zidane, before he became, the most successful coach in the history of Real Madrid, and that's pound for pound, and it's right to win 8 trophies in 2 years, to be the first since 1968 to be Spanish champion, the first since 1958, pardon me, for Real Madrid to be Spanish champion and European champion. The only coach to win back-to-back Champions Leagues. You jump all of that together, first league title in 5 years, back-to-back world clubs. Zidane, prior to that, was an election aide for Florentino Perez. When Florentino Perez quit and came back, who stood by his side? Ronaldo. He was flanked by young, lean Ronaldo, still then, and Zidane. Kudos, credibility. He's back. He becomes an ambassador. He becomes general manager. He becomes a technical director. He becomes assistant coach with Paul Clement to Carlo Ancelotti. He becomes coach to Castilla. So this jack of many trades, successful at all of them, is the guy who plucked Varane for Madrid minutes ahead of Manchester United. Who, when Florentino Perez said Isco, when there was a bargain, a fire sale going at Malaga, and Florentino Perez went public to say Isco hasn't got a place in our team, wouldn't get in our team, Zidane said, just back away from the subject, President, sign him. And they did. That advice applies to other players, and I know that when Daniel Levy was playing hardball with Real Madrid in the summer, that they were trying to buy Bale. Well, it was going to happen. Zidane was the one who was on the phone to Bale saying, stay calm, this is what we're going to ask of you, this is where you'll be playing. So when the negotiations were fully in flow, but it was brutally hard for Florent and Jose Angel Sanchez, his right-hand man, and people confuse that Jose Angel Sanchez, who's been with them since 2000, when the Figo deal, a guy you played against and know well, was done, and world football was shocked and shattered. That guy is there as the doer, he's a brilliant brain, but he's not the football brain. And therefore, Florentino Perez considers himself to be the football brain behind Real Madrid, which is ill-advised. He has one gear, which is buy the best. Sometimes anybody can determine who's the best. He didn't sign Cristiano Ronaldo. That was the previous president, Ramon Calderón. Just happened to land in Florentino's reign. But Zidane has been the most recent guide who'll feed him good information. But if you make him the first team coach, then you've seen top coaches at full tilt. It's quite a busy life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being first team manager, first team coach. You don't have time to be scouting, watching other players, going to other venues. So that has been taken away.
Yeah.
He'll say who he wants or what position he wants filled. And therefore, I go back to the Bale thing. When Mbappe was the absolute priority for Real Madrid and they didn't have a plan B, they were being told all last summer by Mbappe's people, crystal clear from the start, at least one of the BBC, Bale, Benzema and Cristiano Ronaldo must be sold, otherwise Mbappe's not coming. Florentino Perez didn't really believe them, but he believed that he could shift Gareth Bale to Manchester United. Gareth didn't want to leave, legitimately wanted to say, that last season, even though I've had a few minutes in Cardiff and I've won the Champions League, again, back to back, that injury hit season in a club where I enjoy being, in a lifestyle I enjoy in Madrid, I don't want to go back yet. I'm not moving. And he didn't, because he's got a contract till 2021. They didn't have a second idea of what to do if Mbappe didn't sign. Mbappe fulfilled his promise to go somewhere else if they didn't clear out one of the players. And therefore, there were sections of the media who went, I know what we'll do. We'll disparage Gareth Bale. will rubbish him every time he doesn't score. Literally, every time he doesn't score. And it's not his primary purpose at Real Madrid to be a 35 goal a season. Every time he's injured, we'll lump on him in the media. Radio, television and press. Ignoring what he's good at, Kevin, and therefore, the fact that I have this bugbear about him is that from the start of the season, whenever he's played, although he's been injured, he's been Madrid's best player.
Yeah.
Irrespective of away, home, which competition. And what you saw at the weekend is whatever. I think he's contributed 8 or 9 of the last 10 goals Real Madrid have scored through assist or scoring himself. He's in peak form. Are Real Madrid sorted just because he's back in peak form? Are they ready to beat Paris Saint-Germain if the tie was now? No. They still look chaotic. There are players reaching for third gear, never mind fifth gear, who, because of the light hand on the tiller in training, which has been perfect so long as all the players are motivated and they're not sated by success, that light hand on the tiller at training has just let levels drop a little bit. The loss of key players like Morata, James and Pepe, who've been replaced by kids who are not challenging the group. You must have seen that. There's just been that little reduction in sharp cutting edge on a daily basis, not just match basis. When injuries then and results go against you, confidence hemorrhages. But they've reached the turning point. And therefore, I think what you said was astute. It's a Pavlovian thing for Madrid. When the European Cup or the Champions League comes around, they wake up. And there's still enough time between now and Paris Saint-Germain, which they have to play home first and then away, which is a disadvantage, I think. And you look at the weekend where Lyon beat Paris Saint-Germain, constant problems between Neymar and the squad, Neymar and Cavani, Neymar and the media, Mbappe stretchered off, Cavani missing a deadline to come back. This is going to be a proper tie.
Yeah.
And if we did this discussion, which we maybe did 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, you might have said to me, Paris Saint-Germain all the way, no question. And I'd have said, Kev, you're right. Now, I think that by the time the tie comes around, I'll probably be predicting to you that Madrid go through.
I want to ask you 2 things really then before we can, time-wise as well, it's always against you to do this, but this issue with Real Madrid, Cristiano Ronaldo, again, he's not looked happy. He scored 2 goals at the weekend, 2 very good goals actually at the weekend. Not looking entirely happy when I'm seeing him on the pitch. The non-celebration with Gareth Bale, almost in disgust, I suppose, really, when he sees Gareth Bale score at the weekend. Before I touch on Barcelona, just wanted to ask you about that one anyway. Are there issues with Cristiano Ronaldo? Do you envisage anything happening there further down the line with him?
What we can, I read the body language the same as you, but what we can state, not just by guessing, because his people are on a briefing campaign, is that these demonstrations of, well, whatever, I don't really care if a teammate scores or didn't celebrate after his first goal, his own first goal, just like walked away and, here I am, I'm divine again. The second goal, he took a bit in the eyebrow, which happily he was completely unworried about and didn't use the doctor's phone to have a look and see what the damage was and then go, oh my God, and didn't come back on. I don't know how even at 6-1 up, when it's time to come back on, a teammate doesn't come back on when you could. I don't know how you'd have judged teammates of yours.
I judged him a little bit just by using the phone. I'm thinking, just go to the mirror, mate. Do it inside. Do it a little bit more private.
So you weren't thinking, I wish I'd thought of that.
No, it wasn't.
I saw ex-pro after ex-pro going speechless. I have no words.
Yeah.
It's Cristiano. It's what makes him.
Yeah, I think that was Joe's exact words last night. It's Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo. He can do that. He's fine.
Joe's a very sage man.
Yeah.
What we know is that it is a relatively simple issue. Cristiano Ronaldo, and is this illegitimate, believes that as European champion with Portugal, consecutive Champions League winner, goals in each of the final, one way or another, shootout penalty to win it, 2 against Juventus, Spanish champion, double World Club champion. Has he got a Ballon d'Or? He's got the same Ballon d'Or as Messi has. He's played in more winning Champions League finals than Messi has in what I would classify as the Messi era.
Yeah.
It'll be regarded as the Messi era. And he goes, where am I in the pay scale? Behind Messi? Yeah. Behind Neymar? Yeah. Behind about another 10 or 11 players?
Yeah.
No. Do we care? Is it because of his bank balance? No. But is it because of what makes him Ronaldo? From the outset, when as a spotty kid at Manchester United, he told Walter de Salvo, his fitness coach, I'm going to be the greatest player of all time. I will make myself, not the best at this club, not the best currently, not the Ballon d'Or winner. His goal has always been, now he couldn't achieve that, but when you saw him then, could you have said 5 Ballon d'Or, more winning Champions League finals than Messi? Could you possibly have predicted? He made himself that. He can only see it in one way. I should be best paid. And if he didn't think that, he'd be finished. The essence of Cristiano Ronaldo would be gone. He'd be like Popeye without the spinach. So I'm not defending him and saying, listen, you pay him more than Messi, or my heart bleeds for him. And if I had a little photo app that let me see my heart bleeding, then I'd sell it to Cristiano. But I tell you what, Kevin, I understand it. Joe got it right. It's what Cristiano's all about. And he worked for Alex Ferguson, a guy who phoned George Graham when Alex began to be successful at Old Trafford and said, listen, what's your contract? George told him, what's $1 million plus? Will you send me your contract? Yeah. Scott to Scott, I will. Next board negotiation over Alex's salary, they went, that's total rubbish. There's George Graham's contract. Cristiano learned at the feet of the master. George Mendes' agent might be looking and saying, why did I negotiate a contract in November 2016 which my client would be unhappy with? I think it was by May he started complaining, last May at the Champions League final, Ronaldo. Mendes' contractual expertise left Ronaldo happy at Real Madrid with his salary for about 7 months. I'd say if you're Cristiano, as well as complaining to Florentino and not celebrating goals, I'd complain to your agent. Sorry, George.
And on Barcelona, of course, they got the Chelsea tie coming up themselves as well. But they're obviously walking the league at the moment. It's theirs to lose, I suppose, now from the position that they're in. They will go on and win it this season. But we are seeing now a Luis Suarez coming right back into form. We're seeing Messi, of course, that consistency he's had all season. But they look the most complete team, I suppose, from the Spanish league to probably go on. Would I be fair in saying that, to go on and win it this year? You'd
be fair in rubbing even more salt in my gaping wound. I was the guy who, when I watched them playing Las Palmas at home and conceding possession superiority to a hopeless Las Palmas side at the Camp Nou, even with no crowd there, watched them struggling to keep the ball against Getafe. I didn't believe that they were going to be good enough to compete with the elite teams around Europe because they'd lost the knack of pressing the ball and keeping the ball. It turned out that it was a work in progress and I was wrong. It certainly helped that Uruguay let Luis Suarez take a break from football in the international, in the playoffs, when he'd helped them qualify, played through this meniscus injury, which he shouldn't have been. They should have had the keyhole surgery, didn't, wanted to get Uruguay at the World Cup, succeeded, and it's a full house for him in terms of the cards in his hand, because with conservative treatment, he's now fit again. And because he can train fully, I'd say he's a kilo lighter.
Yeah.
And the things where he was doing what Cristiano is still doing, connecting with the ball, he thought, in the same old way, and it was going left, or it was going up, or it was going into the ground, and it felt like he had a Toblerone-shaped boot. That's gone.
Yeah.
He cannot miss anything at the moment. His finishing, Suarez, is as exquisite as it's ever been. And at that age, playing in a two-man strike force, sometimes playing in a one-man strike force, because it was the trident, Neymar's gone, Messi drops into midfield. There were times that his most troubled when Suarez was playing on his own. That, in the blink of an eye, from being three up front, three amigos up front, and doing whatever you want with the ball, to playing on your own with a sore knee, that was a test for him. He's come through it in unbelievable nick. And I'll say to you that when they went down to the Benito Villamarín in Seville to play Betis, against a side where, they'd drawn 3 of the last 6 visits, a side which had put 5 past Sevilla, there was at least a sniff of, could this be a moment? And it's as brutal, as powerful, as skillful, as exhilarating a Barcelona performance as I've seen since the second half of Luis Enrique's treble in 14-15. It was stunning. It was. I use the word brutal deliberately. Rakitic, Busquets, Messi, Alba, Stegen, Piqué are all at or around 9.5 out of 10, week after week after week. Vermaelen out, Umtiti back immediately.
Yeah. New
signings to come in, Coutinho to come in the league, Dembele to get fit and start to aid the Champions League. It seems all there, but it's January.
Yeah.
It's January. One thing I learned was Pep Guardiola always said, this is a tournament of moments. So right now, I turn it around with Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid. If you put Chelsea and Barcelona together right now, there wouldn't be Barcelona, any worries about. But by February and March, I think it's still a tie that Barcelona aren't going to enjoy. They've found Chelsea completely indigestible. for a very long time. And there are players in this Barca side who Antonio Conte, as Italy manager in the last European Championship, knew exactly what to do about to nullify. Not Messi, admittedly, but then Messi's never scored against Chelsea in umpteen. It's a cracker of a tie. And for Chelsea's good luck, it's not been played right now.
Graham, thanks as ever. It's a delight. You come to Dublin more often, by the way, as well. You might enjoy it when you come here as well. But thank you very much for coming in. I just mention as well, it is a big tie this weekend. Valencia are actually playing Real Madrid this Saturday, so that's a good one to look at anyway.
Mestalla will be jumping.
So we'll wait for that one.
They hate Real Madrid. Watch it. Don't miss it. Watch it.
Good man. Thank you very much. Cheers, Graham.
Magic him.
Thank you.
Hey, hope you enjoyed that latest offering from Off the Ball. If you want to subscribe, and you should, check out just up here. All our latest stuff is just down here. Generally, knock yourself out.